नमस्ते बेटियों, खुश रहिए. I JVN Muskan Kumari from the Department of Science and Technology, and I am working here as an assistant professor in Vidyapeeth Women's University and the Faculty of Education and Mythology. So today I will discuss the next topic, which is basically the transmission media. And just before discussing this topic, I just want to conclude some previous topics, isn't it? So that topic is basically your layer architectures and the OSI model that is similar with each other's. And but in the OSI model, we are describing the various in deeply, like the layers working and their functionality, isn't it? But in the layered architecture, I have only discussed about the why layer architecture is important. What is the aim of that? What is the functions of that? Isn't it? What are the elements of that ones? Clear? So today I will discuss the transmission media. Basically, why transmission media we are reading in this session, because there required some components through which you can transmit your data, isn't it? I have You have seen in the OSI model that there is a physical layer which is basically used for the communication channel, isn't it? That works and acting as a communication channel through which your data is passes from one network to another network, in the sense ki from one network's layer to the another network's layer. Clear? So that physical channels is basically used as a communication channel which is transmitting your data. But during the transmissions of the data, what are the required transmission media? There is some media and the components is required which helps you to transmit the data from one place to another place. So that is the transmission media. Okay, so we are talk about here basically the transmission media. So to make it an easy way to understand to all of you, I'm just going to share some files which will help you to get the point in easy manner. Okay, so yes, here is the file transmission media. And what is the firstly I will discuss the what is the transmission media, isn't it? Transmission media is communication channel that carries the information from the sender and reach that information to the receiver side through the electromagnetic signal. Clear? So I have already read these things, signal, and where I have also read about that analog to digital signal and periodic signal and aperiodic signal is what. So this is what transmission media is, just like a communication channel which helps us to transmit the data from sender to the receiver sides, isn't it? And that data is transmitted through the electronic signal or electromagnetic signal. So the main functionality of the transmission media is basically to carry the information in the form of digital signal or bits form, or you can say that in the local area network, through the local area network. The from where this is going to be transmitted, that is known as the local area network. Okay, so what? You can also say that transmission media is just like the physical channel, isn't it? It is a physical path between transmitter and receiver in the data communication. So this is the same point, but we are moving these points into the, and we are calling this point into the multiple sentences, isn't it? So in a copper-based network, suppose if you talk about the copper-based network, the beat in the form of electric signals. Whenever you are saying that any wires which is used to transmit your current or the signals, that is in the form of the digital format, isn't it? Whenever you are using the switch in your room, and for lightning in your for doing the light in your room by on the bulb, so that is also based on your digital bits, so that is 0 and 1 bit, isn't it? So this is whatever you are using to performing any task, like either it is in households, either it is in real time transferring the data, and whatever you are using here, isn't it? That all are based on your bits form. Okay, and electrical signal form. In a fiber based, it is the beats in the form of light pulse in the OSI, open system interconnection phase. The transmission media support the layer 1. The transmission media is basically supporting the layer 1, and in the layer 1 your physical layer is associated, isn't it? Therefore it is considered to be the layer 1 component, so I will also call this like the layer 1 component. Okay, because the main role of the, I have already discussed this, that main role of the physical layer is to transfer the data, not transfer only transfer the data, they are assigning some communication channels or the physical components through which we can directly send the data from sender to the receiver side. Clear? So the electrical signal can be sent through the copper wire or the fiber optics or atmosphere, water and vacuum. Any things you will choose for any things through which you can send any data, that is behaves like the communication channel, isn't it? Clear? So, the characteristics and quality of data transmission are determined by the characteristics of medium and signal. What is the characteristics of? If you have to identify the basic characteristics of your communication channel, then firstly you have to determine the characteristics of your medium and the signals also. Clear? Transmission media is of two types. One will be your wired media, another will be the wireless media. Wired media, like whatever the wiring you are using in your home for getting the light, isn't it? So that is the wired area net, that is called the wired media. And suppose you are make the connections of Wi-Fi in your home, and you are using applying and you are using connectivity with your mobile and the laptops through the wireless, isn't it, and sending the informations to any one persons, then this is connection, a connectivity through which this is happened, this is known as the wireless media. Clear? So in wired media, medium characteristics more important, whereas in wireless media, signal characteristics are important. Clear? So, different transmissions media have different properties, like such as their bandwidth. We have to identify their bandwidth, their properties of delay, their cost, their ease of installation and maintenance of that media, isn't it? Now, the transmission media is available in the lowest layer of the OSI model, reference model, that is known as your physical layer. Some factors need to be considered for the designing and transmissions of media, isn't it? First will be your bandwidth, second will be the transmission impairment, third is your interference, and then guided media, unguided media also. Clear? Now if we talk about the here bandwidth, so all the factors are remaining constant, all the factors are remaining constant. The greater the bandwidth of a medium, the higher the data transmission rate of a signal. What does this meaning of the bandwidth and their lines of the bandwidth which I have written in this document? That one, whatever the bandwidth of your channel, suppose your channel's bandwidth is very high, then you, it's beneficial for you that you can transmit the data, and that size will be the large, and that is under or beyond your bandwidth, isn't it? So higher the bandwidth of your channel, so the higher transmission rate will be occurs. So the time is so the time will be taken during the transmission is very less. Clear? So this is the advantage of the transmission media, that what bandwidth should be high. Now if you talk about the transmission impairment, then when the received signal is not identical, when received signal is not identical to the transmitted one, Due to the transmission impairment, the quality of signal will get destroyed due to the transmission impairment. What happens? Suppose you have sent some data through the receiver side, but the receiver sides receive that signal is they don't know that who has sent this data to whom. To that person, so the signal is not identical to the transmitted one to and this is happening only just due to the transmission impairment. Okay, so in this what happens, the quality of that signal will get lost or destroyed due to the transmission impairment, so the receivers cannot identify the identical of that signals from where this has come, isn't it? Now, if you talk about the interference, an interference is defined as the process of disrupting signal when it travels over a communication medium on the addition of some unwanted signal. What is interference? Interference is basically defined by the process of disrupting the signal. What is the disrupting signal? That distortions occur during the transmission of the signals, isn't it? When the signal starts travel from the sender to the receiver, then there might be some distortion occurs in that channels, in that communication mediums. So there might be some unwanted signals will be added, that names will be like noise, isn't it? The noise will added in that channel, so it distorts and disturbs your original signals. So this is called the interference. And suppose I will also give this interference example, like whenever you make a call to your colleagues and any persons, then you can think sometimes that like what, there is unwanted noises generating during the making of calls, isn't it? So that is what, due to the transmission of your signal, or the due to the communications of your signal, there is some this there might be some mm, you can say that there might be some any problems occurring during the transmissions where the signal is receiving you, where you are receiving that signals, isn't it? There might be some problems will be generated, or you can say that like anything occurs due to the thundering and any options, isn't it? So this affects your the signal, this basically affects your signal. So there might be unwanted things, and unwanted signal may also added to that uh, your original signals during that communication channels, and that is the not in the original format of the signals which the sender has already sent. Clear? So now if we talk about the guided media, so what? In this media, type of media, signal energy is enclosed and guided within a solid medium. The guided media is used either for point-to-point link or shared link with the various connections. What does this mean? In this type of the media, which media? Guided media. The guided within a solid medium. There is a solid in which you are using solid medium you are using for the media as a transmission media. So the guided media is used either for point-to-point connectivity or shared link with various connections like the multi-point connectivity. In the guided media, interference is generated by emission in the adjacent cable. Adjacent cable like means what? If you are using the multi-points, then the wire is connected surrounding all the systems, all the nodes which is within that networks, isn't it? So due to the adjacent link, adjacent cable which is just besides mm, to their cable is generated the some unwanted things, isn't it? So adjacent cables will interference created. Okay, so proper shielding of guided media is required. So we are going to shield the guided media to reduce the interference issues. Clear? Now, if you talk about the unguided media, so what will happen? In the unguided media, the signal energy propagates through a wireless medium. The wireless media is used for radio broadcasting in all the directions. In the unguided media, suppose the signal energy going to be propagates through the wireless medium, and this wireless medium is used for radio broadcasting in all the directions, and microwave link are chosen for long distance broadcasting. Isn't it? Microwave link are chosen for the long distance broadcasting transmission. Unguided media interference is also a problem in unguided media. Overlapping frequency bands from competing the signals can alter or eliminate a signals also. Okay, so we will just going to make the difference between the guided and unguided media once again. Okay, so the signal energy propagates through the wires in the guided media, but in unguided media the signal energy propagates through air in the unguided media, air vacuum. Okay, so now if you discuss the second point, in the guided media is used for point to point communication, but unguided media is generally suited for the radio or the broadcasting in all the directions. Clear? So discrete network topology are formed by the guided media. Continuous network topology can be formed by using the unguided media. And now there are more some points like signals in the form of voltage, current, or photons in guided media. Signals just like in the voltage or the photons or the currents in the guided media, but signals in the form of electromagnetic wave in the unguided media. And the example of guided media are twisted pair cable, coaxial cable, optical fiber cable. But the example of will be the unguided media will just like the radio links and the infrared light, etc. By adding more wires, the transmission capacity can be increased in the guided media, but it is not possible to obtain additional capacity in the unguided media. Clear? So this is all about your sessions. What is the basically transmission media? There are two types of the transmission media in which we are discuss the guided media and unguided media. What are the various factors which is required during the designing of the transmission media? Isn't it that these all topics I have discussed in this session? Once again, I just recall that things. Here you are saying that the transmission media, what is the importance of transmission media? What is the transmission media? Transmission media is basically the communication channel through which you can send the data from one source to the another source, or the main functionality of transmission media is to uh, carry the informations in the form of the bit for the land through the land. And this you can also say that what transmission media is just like the physical path between the transmission and the receivers in the data communication. And in the copper based network, the bit is in the form of electrical signal, and in fiber network the bit is in the form of light pulse. And the OSI models, you know that the layer 1 is known as the transmission media or used for the transmission media. The electrical signal also be sent through the copper wires, optical fibers, and the atmosphere, vacuum, and waters also. Transmission medium is of two types. One will be the your wired, another will be the wireless. And I have discussed the wired is what and wireless is what. So the if you talk about that, the in wired media, medium characteristics more important, whereas in wireless media, signal characteristics is more important, isn't it? So the different transmission media have different properties such as their bandwidth, their delay, cost, and ease of installation, and the what is the infrastructure of that transmission media. Okay, So the factor or the elements during the designing of the transmission media is affected by the bandwidth, their transmission impairment, interference, guided. Now this is another thing, the guided media, unguided media. This is the basic part of your transmission media. Clear? So and the difference here is the difference of guided media and unguided media. So students, if you have any problem regarding this session, then please let me know about your query by putting your query into the comment section box, through which I can identify your query and discuss your query into the next session with you. Okay, and please read this session with refer the multiple standard books and also use the multiple online websites through which they are providing the free of the contents, isn't it? And also read the possibilities of questions which may arises through this, like what are the basic elements of the during what we should keep in my mind during the designing of the transmission meter. Then you have to discuss the elements which is required during the designing of transmission media. What is the transmission media, what are the factors of the transmission media, what is the importance of transmission impairments, yeah, what is the role of transmission impairments in the your designing of transmission media, isn't it? And many more guided media and unguided media is also here. So please read these all type of the questions through this session and also refer some other informative contents also. Okay, so please read these sessions, and in the next session I will discuss the Shannon's capacity. Okay, so thank you.